You're listening to the Ridge Journal Podcast with Josh Lloyd.
All right, I'm on with Coach Nick Bazzle. This is his final interview for 2024. It may be the final interview for you as a coach. For the rest of time here, I'm sure we'll have you back in for commentary at some point. But I want, since this is your farewell interview, I want to ask you some questions about the beginning of your career first.
Okay.
What first drew you to football, and was there a specific moment where you knew you wanted to become a coach?
Josh, I was drawn to football as a young kid. Honestly, started playing the first time in 1969. I was 8 years old, and was asked to be a water boy on a little league football team because I wasn't old enough to play. It was 11 and 12-year-olds, and I was 8. And so I wasn't a very good water boy because while they were at practice, I was over on the sidelines playing with all the kids in the neighborhood, tackle football on the grass with a wadded up paper Coke cup. And so one day the coach just came up to me right in the middle of the season and said, after practice, he told me to come over to his car, and he said, do you enjoy being a water boy? And I said, no, not really, but I do whatever I have to do. And he said, would you rather play? I said, yes, sir. So he handed me a pair of shoulder pads and a pair of pants out of the trunk of his car and a helmet. I was telling the kids this during the season. And a helmet that had a crack from the air hole at the top all the way down to the ear hole. And which I didn't care, but as soon as I put that helmet on, I thought it was the best helmet I've ever seen in my life. So I wasn't a starter by any means, but I got to be on their team as an 8-year-old with 11 and 12-year-olds. And in some games and late in the game, when the game was out of hand, he had put me in and let me play. So that was my first taste of football, outside of playing in the cow pasture or the backyard, you know. But I knew then that I wanted to play it. But it's funny that you asked me that question. When did I know that coaching was going to be part of my career or going to be my career? I was just telling the faculty yesterday during a faculty meeting. I kind of got roasted in that morning faculty meeting, and I didn't know it was getting ready to happen. And I was asked to say a few things, and one thing I told the staff up there is I knew in the 6th grade I wanted to coach. I grew up without a dad and was raised by my mom and my older sister, and my coaches were my dads. They were my role models, my mentors, my heroes. And so I wanted to do what they did. And so I can tell you honestly that when I was in the 6th grade, I knew what I wanted to do at Rock Springs Elementary School. And when we went to a lot of high school kids nowadays, and you know this for sure too, probably from some of your friends that you graduated with, some of them will go all the way through their sophomore or junior year in college before they declare a major because they don't know what they want to do. And I knew going in, I'm going to major in physical education, and I'm going to be a football coach. If anybody asked me that from the time I was 11 years old all the way till the time I enrolled my first year of college, that's exactly what I told them. So being a football coach is not a career, it's a calling. And I felt like I was groomed for that coming up, and the circumstances of my life put me in that situation.
Is there a specific coach or set of coaches that helped you form your philosophy as a coach?
Well, my philosophy is not an X and O philosophy. Watching all my coaches and the way I'm a product of the way I was coached. And my coaching skills or my coaching philosophy is a product of the upbringing I had as a coach under the mentors that I had. All of my coaches from the time I played, I thought walked on water. It didn't matter how much they knew, I thought they knew it all. They were just that that big in my life. My head coach in high school, Bruce Bullitt, probably had the biggest influence on me as a high school player, and I'd done anything for that man.
Now, did he know? Did you tell him you wanted to coach?
Oh yeah, he told us I was crazy. He told me I was crazy, and he said, "You're going to be poor," and he said, "You're not going to have any time to do anything else." And I said, "Coach, I'm not worried about that because I'm going to marry a wife that makes money." So I just figured, if I marry somebody who has a good job and does well, and at that when me and my wife got married, she was a bank teller, so she wasn't making a whole lot of money at that time, but she's climbed that ladder and done a good job of getting promoted to where she's at now. So, but anyway, they all thought I was crazy and tried to talk me out of it, and I said, "No, that's what I want to do. I want to do exactly what you're doing." And
well, they had to like you.
Oh yeah. Well, they were. My coaches. That was the one thing that I always tell the kids. I said, "Guys, look, if you can make your coaches happy, every day at practice is going to be a great day." And so my whole philosophy growing up as a player was, I want to impress my coaches. I want my coaches to think that I'm never going to be lazy. I'm always going to give my best effort. I want to please my coaches, and so I was just brought up that way. And with those guys being my role models, the last thing I wanted to do was let them down, and that was just the way I came through athletics. And it wasn't just football; it was baseball or basketball. When I played those other two sports, but as a coach, my coaching philosophy, just on how to manage people and deal with people and treat people, and how to go about just managing the game. That was all Don Patrick at Newton Conover. The best thing that ever happened to me in my career was when I got a phone call in 1987 in July, and he asked me if I would come interview with him. He had an opening, and he had heard somebody had thrown my name out there to him, and I was just an assistant coach, and I'd only been coaching 2 years. And he asked me. I said, "Coach, I would love to, but I'm happy where I am." I was at East Lincoln. I was with my friends. Had coaching buddies, and I was there at my alma mater, and I was happy. And he said, "Would you just come talk to me? Would you consider just come and talk to me?" And I said, "Yes, sir. I'll come talk." And so I made the drive over there, and Josh, I'm telling you, within 5 minutes of talking to him in that field house office, I was scared to death because I knew I had a decision I had to make. And that was the best career move for me ever. I wouldn't be here right now. Me and you wouldn't be having this conversation if I wouldn't have chose to go leave my alma mater and go coach with Don Patrick.
Well, he was making a lot of phone calls that summer.
Yeah, I'm sure.
He called my dad too.
Just say, yeah. Yep.
And he came down from Smoky Mountain or somewhere.
Yep, I remember that, driving that old Ford Fairlane or something, Falcon or.
Yeah.
Oh, and that's when I met him for the first time. As a matter of fact, we went to the clinic together that first year, and we didn't hardly know each other or anybody there.
Yeah, he had already been a head coach for several years in South Carolina, and my mom thinks he should have stuck it out up there.
Yep.
Hindsight's 20/20.
Oh yeah.
But Newton Conover was good to him.
Yep.
So.
But that is. I mean, they don't come much better than Coach Patrick.
Well, I often think about where I would relocate if we moved down from the mountains, and it's between Newton and North Lincoln.
Yep.
And I actually, today I drove in from Newton, and that's pretty country.
It is.
Yeah, right in between the two.
Yep. Oh yeah.
There's mountains in there. I was like, well, look, there's a mountain.
Yep. Yep.
Don't see.
That's right.
Didn't expect that.
I love it here. I miss it. I grew up here 3 miles from here. I was born in Lincoln County and lived in Pumpkin Center and went to Rock Springs Elementary and then East Lincoln Junior High. At that time it was junior high, and then graduated from East Lincoln High School. So I mean, I've lived here pretty much all my life. So I love it around here. But as far as football goes, Josh, Newton Conover was my home.
When it comes to your early days coaching, whether that be as an assistant coach or as a head coach, what would you say was the most significant challenge you faced as a new coach?
As coming in as a first-year head coach, is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, sure, that's fine. You can start there.
The first thing is realizing all the duties and responsibilities that went with being a head coach. No longer were you just in charge of one position. Now you were in charge of practice organization, game prep, facilitating coaching staff meetings, managing all the players and taking care of them in the school, making sure their grades were up, they were getting their work done there. I mean, no longer was I just coaching the 4 inside linebackers I had and that was it. Now I was coaching everybody, and I was honestly, you're representing the community now. There's just a lot more responsibility that's laid on your shoulders as a head coach. So adjusting to that was probably the biggest thing. But the toughest thing, I think, was walking in Coach Patrick's shoes, because there's a man who had spent 26 years there as a head coach and won 13 conference titles in 25 seasons, and 4 trips to the Western Regional Finals, and plus the fact that he was a pillar of the community and everybody loved and respected him. And so it was like I'm walking in as the next head coach behind a legend. And so I was pretty nervous about filling those shoes, but he did a good job of equipping me and giving me a chance to be successful early.
Well, here we are on the other end of the stick, and I've noticed in filling your shoes, a lot of people are just saying no, thank you. How do you respond to many of your coaches who we both probably believe are qualified to take the job saying not yet and deciding to continue as an assistant coach?
Well, Josh, they have to. Those guys have to know themselves when the time's right for them. Not just necessarily who you got to follow or anything like that. It's just kind of like me, and I keep going back to this, to Coach Patrick, because he's the biggest influence in my coaching career of anybody, bar none. But I kept telling him, come on back, come back, come back. I'm going to be here. I'm going to stay here. You don't need to retire at this time. Where I'm good 5 more years, ever how long you want to stay, Coach. But he knew that I was ready, or felt like I was. I didn't know if I was or not, but when he left, it was like, you're going to either sink or swim. Yeah. And so, if these, I know I have some assistant coaches that are going to be good high school head coaches one day, if that's the path they choose to take, because they have the tools to make it. But if it's not time for them, that's okay too. But don't think you can't be successful here because you got to come in after I leave. That's not always the case. You don't win football games or build successful programs doing things one way. Everybody has their own way of doing it, and there's a lot of different coaches that win championships and build programs that don't run the triple, or just have a different philosophy or belief than I do.
The triple option offense has become synonymous with your legacy. How did you first encounter the triple option, and what made you commit to perfecting it?
Okay, well, that's an easy question. I was a linebacker in college at Guilford College. We played 2 teams on our schedule every year. One was Davidson, and one was Elon. And those 2 teams ran either the triple or the wing T. Davidson was usually a wing T team. Elon ran a lot of triple. Now, not necessarily out of the spread like we run it, but they were in different formations, but they had the same triple blocking principles. And I hated it every time we had to prepare for those two teams. And when we played them, I was more sore from the knees down, because back then you could cut anywhere on the field. So I was getting cut by a linebacker, by a tight end at linebacker. Or the misdirection of the wing tee was causing me to get stuck, and I wouldn't know where the ball was, and then by the time I saw it, it's too late to get there. And every time you was trying to get to your option responsibility, somebody was in your ear hole. It was just the hardest offense to defend as a player. And I told you I knew when I was in the 6th grade what I wanted to do, and all my teammates knew that I wanted to be a high school coach one day, because we talked about that. I told them, my buddies on defense, I said, when I get to be a head coach, I'm going to run one of them two offenses. I don't know which one yet, but I'm going to run one of them because I hate to defend it. And so, working at Newton Conover from 87 to 99, I was a defensive coach the whole time. And when we had to defend the triple, it was hard to do. And but also, I watched Coach Patrick, and his offensive scheme was more like Nebraska. It was the I formation, the slot I, and the pro I, and he ran some option principles out of it. And I knew when I got the head coaching job, I said, I don't want to do exactly what he did, but I want to be similar. I want to run the ball. So I said, but I knew Jim Taylor down at Shelby was very successful running what he called at that time the wing bone. And that was a blend between the wing tee and the triple. And so when I got the job, first phone call I made was to Jim Taylor. And I said, can we talk about the triple option? I want to be able to run the triple. And he said, Coach, he's just an old country farmer, Coach, I'll be glad to help you with that triple option. He said, come on down here and we'll spend the day at the field house and then go eat some barbecue and we'll talk football. And so he told me, and he showed me how the basics of running it and how he does it, and he said, Coach, I think you're smart to run that kind of offense. He said, you can win 8 games a year. You can average 8 games a year. And Josh, the funny thing about it last night is I went back and I was having to do some things for an interview or whatever, and I had to figure out what my total record was. I had no idea, so I had to go back and look on Max Preps and then get some pictures out and find what my records were from 1999 to 2025 or 24. And there's 187 wins in there in 24 seasons, and it comes out to 7.9 wins per season.
He was right on point.
Right on point.
What was your total record? Do you remember?
187 and 108, I think.
Wow.
187, 108. Yeah. So I mean, it's funny how those old guys, man, that's been doing it forever, and he was one of those that had coached forever. They know when they tell you something, it's true, and it just happened to work out in my case.
Okay. This is kind of a redundant question because you did touch on it without me asking, but I want you to kind of touch on this again. What were some of the pivotal moments in your career that helped you establish your identity as a coach? I'd imagine the 2008 season was one of them. But are there other situations that you can remember where you really felt like you had the team like completely harnessed in your grasp and they were going to do anything you asked of them?
Yeah, there's quite a few of those. Honestly, Josh, there's not just one of them. I mean, some of the most rewarding seasons that I've had were not championship seasons, sure, like this past one, just like the 24 nights. I always felt like when you did what everybody never gave you a chance to do, that's when you got the most satisfaction out of it. I love being picked low by the coaches and the polls in preseason. I love being picked low in the conference and then finishing at the top. But the thing that happened to me was I was left in good hands when I first got the job at Newton, because there was some good athletes coming back, and Coach Patrick left me in a situation where I could win if I just did any coaching at all.
Yeah.
And so that first year we went 6-5 in that first year, and then the second year we went 12-3. And
that was 2000.
That was 2000. Played for a state championship.
Yeah, and you played and you lost, but what did you learn? Because that was your second year coaching as a head coach.
I learned that the next time I get in that situation, I'm not going to kick it. I'm going to go for it. Now, I still think I made the right decision during that time, but because I didn't want to take it out of the players' hands. But now that I've been there, and won one, if I ever got back and got in that same situation, I wouldn't try to put it in overtime. I'd give it to somebody, and we'd either go home happy or sad. But no, that's one thing. But I guess the one thing I did learn from that is, and this is what I've always tried to do, whenever you coach players, if you want them to be successful, you got to coach their hearts and not just their skills. When you can get into the heart of a kid, great things can happen that nobody even expects to happen. And so I honestly felt like those first 2 years that I had at Newton with those teams, I think I was very passionate about what I did, and I told you this is what I wanted to do all my life. So, but what I always tried to do was I tried to motivate the kids to feel about the game like I felt about it, and just be very passionate and give them the best effort that they can every time they get a chance, and just get to know the guys, and like I said, just to coach them from the soles of their feet to the top of their heads and everywhere in between. And I felt like I got my kids to give the best effort they could give, and at that time we had some good athletes, and when you've got good athletes and you get them playing like that, then you've got something special. When you don't have athletes like I had then, you still can do things that people don't realize you can do and don't give you a chance to do. So it's to any new coach that's going into coaching for the first time, I would tell them, I said, boys, if you want to be good and you want to be successful and you want to feel good about your career and what you did, you better find the hearts of your players, and you better coach your heart first. And if you'll do that, you got a chance.
That brings me to an unexpected question that I can't help but ask you.
Okay.
Because we live in this strange time where parents seem to dictate the direction of teams when they shouldn't. You might be able to coach the heart of the player, but how do you get into the hearts of the parents so that they understand the direction the team needs to take to win the most games and get the most out of the players? Because all too often, the teams that don't win, they don't necessarily lose because of the players, but because of the meddlesome hearts and minds of the parents that are there hovering. How do you manage that as a coach?
Really, it's pretty tough to manage, Josh, because unfortunately, a lot of parents these days play vicariously through their son.
Yeah.
And just try to live their football experience, or the experience they wish they had through their son, and they all want them to succeed. But back in the day, especially my mom and parents of my friends that played, they left the coach alone, and the coach coached the players. It's just different. Our society's changed. The rules have changed. People are more quick these days to give their opinion. I think maybe that if parents saw what you did 24/7 during a football season and saw the amount of energy and the amount of time and the amount of sacrifice that coaches put towards their son, they'd be a little more hesitant to say that, to do things like that. But I'm a parent, and I'm a parent who knew that I always tried to, when both my sons played other sports, I tried to treat those coaches like I wanted to be treated.
Yeah, 100%.
So I would back off and let those guys go. And it's just a different world we live in. I don't know if there is a way to manage it. I just think you have to deal with it, and you have to do your best to eliminate it, and not give that voice as much opportunity as if you want to have a parent conference, then there ought to be rules in place of what you'll talk about and what you won't talk about. And and I have those, I do those, but the whole, and I know you're going to ask me about this later, but the whole scope of college and high school sports is changing rapidly to a point to where I think it's taken away from the team concept and what's more important for the team. And I'm an old school guy, and I'm always going to teach a team concept. That's my philosophy. It doesn't matter to me who scores. It doesn't matter to me how many touchdowns they score. It matters to me what the clock says at the end. Do we have a W up there? We have more points than they do. And it's a team win. It's always a team win. It's always a team loss. And so those things I've held on to for my whole entire coaching career, and I'm gonna go out holding on to those same values.
You almost need, I would call them sweepers within the local community who have your back, who will make sure that when those negative thoughts come into the fray of the community that you're coaching, that there's someone there to stop it before it gets to the team, before it gets to you. I often think, like, if I coach again at the rec level, I'm probably just going to take an assistant role, and my job would be to protect the head coach at all costs, and that would be it. Like, I would help with fundamentals, but at the end of the day, I'm just there to hear the whispers and tell them to shut their mouth.
Yeah.
And you almost need people like that on the team now. Almost like you need someone looking for signs of the offense on the way in, like how they're doing that now, where they'll sit there with binoculars and figure your signs out in the first quarter. You almost need that just to protect yourself from the parents.
Well, the thing you have to do, Josh, is as a coach, there's always going to be that.
Yeah.
I mean, and honestly, I've got a sign hangs on my wall in my coach's office over there that says, "Never worry about things you can't control."
Yeah.
Because if you do, they will adversely affect the things that you can control. And so I can't control what parents say or what parents might do in the stands or anything like that. They have the right to say what they want to say, but what I can do is not give them a platform for it.
Yes.
And so, we have a lot more to worry about the things that we can control within this team than to worry about outside noise like that. And so I don't know if I don't have a coach that would take care of that stuff or anything like that. I don't know that I'd even put him in charge of it, because that's something that he wouldn't want to do anyway.
And it takes the interest off.
It takes interest off what's important. So, my focus doesn't change. My kids, the players that I have, know what my philosophy is, and that doesn't change. And we just try to stay within our own team and the framework of our team in every decision and how we do things.
Okay, changing subjects.
Okay.
What are the biggest misconceptions about the triple option, and how do you address those who might underestimate its effectiveness?
Well, how you address those that underestimate it is you play them.
You just beat them.
That's right. And then they get a new appreciation for it.
Like you at linebacker.
That's right. But, okay, I guess the biggest misconceptions about the triple option is that that it's old school and it's outdated. That it's not sexy. And in my opinion it is, because I would much rather, I get more, my juices get flowing more watching an 80-yard run off of an option that's executed from the dive to the quarterback to the pitch all the way to the sideline than I do a 80-yard bomb.
Yes.
Okay, it's to me, when I see the option executed out all the way through that phase, or maybe even somebody on defense, missing an assignment and the fullback goes 80 yards, that's like poetry in motion to me, Josh. I just love it. Always have, and I've always been intrigued with it. But some people think, well, it's not a good 2-minute offense. What do you do when you're, it's not a good offense to be in when you got to play from behind. And in some respects, that's not a misconception. There's some truth to that, because if you want to be good at it, you don't have time to work on a detailed passing game, because you have to be, there's so much precision and timing that goes into running the triple that if you don't rep it 1,000 times, a week, then you're not going to be very good at it. You can't dabble in that offense and do something else with it. You either got to sell out or not. And so yeah, 3rd and longs are not good and friendly to a triple option team. Having to score with 2 minutes left in the game and you're down by 6 and you got to move it fast when they know you're going to have to throw. So no, that's not. But what it does do is it keeps you out of those situations more than it hurts you when you're in them, because you don't get in them very often. You've got the ball most of the game. That's one of the things you want to do. You want to control the ball. You want to try to you want to move that thing 4 yards a play. And if you average 4 yards a clip every time you run it, then the chains are going to keep moving. And as long as the chain's moving, the clock's running. And as long as the clock's running and you're on offense, they can't score. So it's a ball control offense, and and in this day and time, the 21st century, we're a real high minority in the triple option. So, matter of fact, we were the only one in our conference that ran it. So everybody's got to do something different to get ready for us. And what a lot of people don't think of too is they have to take the backup players that they have and assimilate a triple option scout team that's going to run it as good and as fast as we do, and that's not going to happen. So when they see us on Friday, they might see some of the same plays, but it ain't going to be the same speed.
Yeah.
And so if I was going into it today if 2024 was my first year as a head coach, I'd do the same thing all over again, despite what the naysayers think. I would do the same thing all over again. It would be different. It works. It's been tried, tested, and proven over time. And I believe in it that much. And so yeah, I'll always be a triple option fan.
How has your family supported your coaching journey, and what sacrifices have they made, and what have they taught you in return? A lot of people say, well, I don't want to coach anymore because I need to spend more time with my family. But Josh,
I always knew, and you were the son of a coach, so you knew this too.
Yeah.
Your dad spent a lot of time at the field house.
More than he should have.
Okay. You know, and he spent time behind a film projector.
Also behind a lawnmower.
And behind a lawnmower. He did all that stuff.
Yeah.
But he still found time for his boy.
Yeah, well, he did.
You know, and so, and his daughter, your sister. And so I made sure when my family was born and as we were raising them, that I spent quality time with my two boys. And so I don't regret anything because I did that. I was able to give them, we went camping, we went on vacations, we went hunting together. We did things, we played golf together. We did things that fathers and sons do. And I don't regret it. And honestly, I think if I would have been doing something wrong and they would have felt that way, one of my sons wouldn't be a head coach right now.
Yeah.
You know, but he's chosen to go that route too, and that's what he came out of college to do, was to be a head football coach one day. He wanted to do the same thing his dad did. And my son wanted to do that too. My youngest son wanted to do that too until he got to making money. And then when he found out he could make a lot more money doing something else, he might be the smartest one in the group.
Maybe so.
You know, but my wife is, you know, I got a jewel of a wife, Josh. I'm telling you, I hit the jackpot when I married her. She knew going in what the time constraints were going to be on me, and she was proud, really, to be a coach's wife. And that was, you ask her, she'll tell you that. She will also tell you it was tough at times, especially when I'd come home after a tough loss. I wasn't very fit to live with for a weekend, and you know, those kind of things. But she hung in there with me and supported me. And matter of fact, she was really sad when I told her I had decided to make this one my last year, because and she's been dealing with physical problems too, and health problems, and getting stronger now. But she said, if you go on to coach 10 more years, I'd be okay with it. You know, you just got to make sure when you choose that life partner that you choose one that's got the same goals as you do, and appreciates the work that goes into it. And she's seen a lot of changed lives in a lot of kids and a lot of people, and appreciates that. And she was a part of that as well, and supporting me. But she's an athletic wife and understands it, so that's what makes it special.
Well, you could say that this year was filled with challenges. What has made this season, specifically 2024, special for you as your final chapter as a coach?
Well, to start with, you know, I missed the whole off season, or not off season, but preseason, and I did in the summer. Missed the whole summer, missed the whole preseason. Scrimmages and all those my wife was going through some health issues. She's battling cancer, and she's come out at this point in time ahead, and she's strong and healthy again. So at this point in time, we're ahead of the game and we're beating it. But I had to spend 39 days with her in the hospital for a stem cell transplant, which is a 100-day ordeal. Not just 39 days, that's just the hospital stay. But, you know, thank God she's over her 100 days and started back to work in the office this week, so she's as normal as she ever has been. We've been blessed, we've been a lot of answers to prayer, and so all that was tough to have to go into a season with. And but here's the thing, you're only as good of a coach as the people you surround yourself with. And I have the best assistant football coaches in this state, bar none. Those guys took the team and got them ready in the summer took them to camp without me, brought them back from camp, continued to practice them in the summer, took them through 7-on-7s, went into the preseason, and when I came back in September, they hadn't missed a beat. And so because of the great job my coaching staff did to keep our kids going, that's what made this season special. And then at least the start of it, I mean, it could have been a disaster because they could have done nothing and just let things go, but those guys made such a big difference with the kids, and the kids just continued to play because they play for those guys like they do me. But then what made it extra special was seeing a group of guys that 2 years ago were sophomores, being able to keep those sophomores together without injury, not lose any to kids that decided they didn't want to be in the program anymore. To have them all stay together as a group and be together as a group as a senior, I knew they were going to be special 2 years ago. But they were complete overachievers. And so everybody knew we were going to be better this year, including myself. But if you matched us up side by side with all the teams we played, we looked like a middle school team a lot of times matched up to them. And people would make jokes when we would go to away games. We'd get off the bus and they said that people were over there talking and they were asking, well, where's their lineman? You know, is there another bus they're coming on? You know, because when all our kids got off, they all looked like skill guys. You know, but I'm telling you, Josh, this group I had played way beyond their skill level, and when they got to round 4, and by all rights probably should have beat Hickory. You showed me a few plays that had they went a little bit different, score would have been different.
Well, technically, if you draw back the plays they scored on, you did beat them.
Yeah.
But
even to take a team that close they exceeded my expectations. This team exceeded my expectations.
100%.
And from the beginning of the year, I didn't see us being in round 4. But I will tell you this, once we got in the playoffs and we just continued to get a little better every week, it didn't surprise me in the end when we beat Ashbrook and made it to that round 4. I wasn't as surprised as I would have been at the beginning of the year because I could see it in their eyes.
Yeah.
You know.
If you could replay a single game from your career, which would it be and why?
It would be Maiden versus East Lincoln, 1979.
Tell me why.
Okay. All right.
That was a real rivalry, huh?
Yep. So we were both 7-0 in the conference, and East Lincoln had never won a conference championship in the history of the school. And we were playing Maiden in the last game of the season. It's sad because I tell my seniors this story sometimes on the last day of practice before their Friday game. I talked to them about it, but there was a play that happened in that game. We lost 20-9 to Maiden, and so we ended up finishing number 2 in the conference. But there was a play. There's a running back from Maiden. His name was Marty Beal. Okay, he's a pretty good friend of mine. I know Marty well. Me and him were about the same size, and we were ahead at that time, 9-6. Yeah, 9-6. We were up, and it was in the third quarter. And he ran. They gave him the ball up the middle, and I hit him, and I had him. I mean, I had him wrapped. And there was 4 or 5 others that came up too and had him, but the official didn't blow the whistle. And so apparently the official never thought that forward progress was stopped. But I had the guy tackled, and I thought it was, so I let him go, thinking that they were going to blow the whistle just prematurely let him go, and he just squirted out and ran down the sideline and scored. And I can still remember that play vividly in my head. And it was a 4th down play. And had I just went ahead and finished the play and waited for the whistle, then that game might have been different. But that's the one play, you always remember your senior night game more than you do any. And so I remember that one, and I just remember that one play where I had that guy stopped and didn't finish it. And so I kind of use that with my players on how important it is to always finish it every time. So yep, that would be it.
Is there a moment in your career that still gives you goosebumps when you think about it?
Yeah, 2008. I guess you could have probably guessed that one.
I was there.
You was there. We got it on DVD, don't we? Yeah. The pinnacle of my career was standing on the sideline with, I don't know, almost a quarter and a half left, and we're up 54-7 or something like that. The game's over, and I'm standing there with my son on the sideline, and he's the quarterback, and we're watching the game end. And the other guys are playing, and we know that in a matter of minutes that we're going to be celebrating being a state champion. And I can remember, Josh, we had so many people at that game from Newton. There was a sea of red behind us. And most other teams just had a little section out of the stands there that they had filled up. But ours went at least half of the bottom, maybe into the other 2/3 of the whole bottom section of Keenan Stadium. And I could just hear behind me at that game, "Go Red, go Red." Just a loud, even with my headphones on, it made the hair on my neck stand up. And that was probably without a doubt, was the biggest and most, I don't know, unbelievable experience of my life was that 2008 season and that game that we finished there.
As you step away from the field, what will you miss most? What are you looking forward to in this next chapter of your life?
What I'm going to miss the most is the relationships. Okay, well, not seeing your coaches are your best friends. It's always been that way with me. I mean, we do things on and off the field together. We're not just in touch with one another from August to December. When you live together, basically with guys like that for that long, you become close to them. So I'm going to miss the everyday practice preparations and game planning and stuff like that, and just hanging out and having a good time together. I'll miss some of that. Now, it's not going to totally be over. I only live 6 miles down the road, and I'm sure I'm going to see these guys on a regular basis. But just that camaraderie that you had, and I know that I'm going to miss the relationships with the kids on a daily basis and watching them grow in the weight room and listening to what you tell them and them believing in you, and then all of a sudden at the end realizing that what they've been coached to do all the time actually works, and then them having a faith and a belief in you that what you're trying to do is to help them be successful. That when you see that in a kid and in his face, it's telling you thank you without him even saying the words. And that, when they come up to you after a big win, like when we beat Ashbrook down here, and the hugs you get and the thank you coaches and those things are going to be missed because you can't replicate them anywhere except on a football field after a game like that. So I'll miss all that, but you know what, Josh? I had it for a long time. I got a lot of that stored up, and they can't nobody take my memories away from me. So I've got that, and I'll always remember that. And what makes it special too is, and I've always known this to be the case. After my high school coach told me this one time, he said, "You're going to win a lot of championships, hopefully, in your career, and you're going to have big wins, and you're going to have all these great times." He said, "But the one thing that you're going to appreciate more than anything else is when your players come back to see you." And I didn't realize that at that time, but that is the truth. You're going to remember the 2008s. You're going to remember the 2024 seasons, the overachievers, the ones that went to round 4 and made history. You're going to remember all that, but you're going to appreciate more when you're just sitting at home and all of a sudden your text messages ding and it's a player calling you, wishing you happy Father's Day, you know, or Merry Christmas, or miss you, Coach, how you been getting along, you know, or maybe they stop in, you know, or you see them at the grocery store, you know, just those are the things that's going to mean more to you than all the other things.
This kind of touches on that same notion. What advice would you give the next generation of coaches stepping into similar roles as you?
Josh, there's a slogan that I put on the T-shirts one time that said, "North Lincoln Knights, where lessons of life are still being learned and players still compete for the love of the game and their teammates." And I think high school athletics is getting further and further away from those two philosophies. And if I was telling a new coach as he came in, the first thing I'd tell him is what I told you a while ago: you coach these kids, you coach your hearts. And then the second thing you do is you teach them the team concepts and how to deal with adversity and how to trust in their teammates and to play this for the love of the game itself, the fun of it, and learn life's lessons from it, but at the same time learn how to depend on each other. I think those lessons, those old school lessons of high school football, are being pushed aside by NILs and by transfers. And, you know, that old song the Beach Boys used to sing, "Be true to your school." You know, where has that been? Where is that philosophy? You know, I just think that there's a lot of individualism being forced into our sport and into the high school sports arena itself. And I just feel like the old school ways, and I call them old school because they're becoming extinct. But I would tell the coach, you coach a team based on the team, and you do what's best for the team, and you make them kids believe in each other and love each other. When you develop chemistry on a team like that, then you're going to always win more than you lose. And when you have good athletes and you teach them those same concepts, you're going to be winning championships, and it's going to be special. So that's what I'd tell them, and that's why I coach. I don't make a whole lot of money doing this. You know, you as a coach's son, y'all didn't live in Sellview, you know, or in some great big.
I don't even know what Sellview is.
Yeah, well, there you go.
Yeah.
I didn't until I moved here.
Yeah.
But you're just not. You're not going to get rich doing what we do, but we don't do it for that.
Yeah.
We do it for those reasons I just said.
Last question.
Okay.
It's cold out here. I'm going to let you go. If you could deliver one final message to this team in 2024, what would you say?
I would say thank you for the commitment and for for making a community and a school and a coaching staff as proud of a group of young men as they could be. They represented this school, this community, this whole county in a positive manner. They were a class act team. They gave every ounce of effort that they had and achieved more than anybody else has ever at this school as far as football goes. And just how thankful I am that they were able to sacrifice and make a commitment from the end of last year until this year, or maybe even since they came in as a freshman, because this whole group of seniors has worked so hard. They're the ones that led this group to the point that they were this year. Had it not been for those 25 seniors we had, we'd have never gotten where we were, because they were the leaders of the whole group. So yeah, hats off to them, and I love them, and every one of them, and they'll always be special to me as a group, individuals and as a team. And I don't want them to ever feel like they can't call me if they need anything, or if they just want to say hey, you know. So like I told you, when your players come back to see you, that's what makes your payday. So yeah, 24 guys, proud of you, always will be, and you've done a great thing for this school and this community. You ought to be proud.
All right, that's it. Thank you.
Okay.